Okay, I think maybe first thing to discuss is the assignment. Um, so this one right here, um, we haven't talked about how to actually complete that one. Although, I mean, we can talk about it really quickly. It's not that difficult, the thing that you need. Um, this one, nope, not that one. This one is this one's long. Like that one, that question, that question, you have to do a lot of joining in order to make that one work correctly. So I would think if there would be one that's going to give you fits, it's probably that one. Although this one, I mean, that one's okay. That one's not a big deal. And this one's kind of similar to this one, but after you figure that one out, then it's not a huge deal. This, we got some stuff we got to talk about, and we'll talk about. I guess we'll talk about the last pieces of information that you guys need to complete all of these. Like I said, I changed the due date to be Friday, and so that's going to give you another week to kind of work on them. Um, when I was writing these before class just to make sure everything was okay. Uh, that one that one took a while. The third one on there, is that the one that's giving you guys the most fits?
For me, yes.
Yeah. So
Same.
do what?
Same.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I figured. I mean, that one's that one's like horribly mean. Um, although this is, I mean, this assignment is really good practice because I mean, your guys' next exam is basically going to be like a big quiz. I mean, it's all going to be SQL related. You're going to have to, I'm going to give you a set of SQL queries to write, and that's pretty much going to be the entire exam. Um, there'll be some other
Yay.
questions. Yeah. So get ready. There's going to be some other questions on there, but for the most part, that's going to be the exam. So prepare however it is that you prepare, but um, you're going to prepare by writing SQL. I will say we're going to have another quiz. I mean, I'm not going to have one when I'm not back on campus, which I'm hoping that I'm back tomorrow. I can't understand why I wouldn't be back tomorrow. I drove down to the office today and everything was fine. So um, I think I'm going to be back on campus tomorrow. So given that we're back on campus on Wednesday, we are going to have a quiz on Wednesday, last 20 minutes of class. So get ready for that. It can cover anything in SQL that we have that we've covered so far. So you know, I don't know how you prepare for it. You don't really. You just either know it or not. Good thing is, I mean, all these quizzes are, open book, open note. You can look up whatever you want to. Doesn't really make a difference one way or another. So I think what we'll do today is we'll finish up what we were discussing on Friday, and then we'll spend some time at the end of the session, given that we have the time, going over the bits and pieces that you need in order to answer all of these queries on this assignment that I've called Program 2, but I don't know. It's Assignment 2, Project 2, I guess. All right. So last time we were inside Visual Studio, and did everyone get the Windows Forms application development package installed that 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 wanted to anyway? I mean, you're going to have to eventually because your next project is going to be a programming assignment, so you'll have to do it. Um, you'll have to do it in this. So, did anybody have any problems getting it installed? I'm going to take that as a no.
It's very slow and I can't. It's very slow and I can't download it while I'm in SQL for some reason.
Really?
Yeah, when I tried to open SQL with it with the stuff installing, it was
Now that,
like no.
I don't know, that might be an internet connection. Hopefully, like when we get back on campus, you can just connect to that network real quick and do it. So it shouldn't be too big of a problem. But I mean, obviously your next project isn't going to be due. I'm not even going to assign it until this one's, past the due date of this one. So at the earliest, you'll get it a week from today. So don't don't be too worried about it. Anybody else have any issues or anything? Just make sure you install that package that I pointed out a million times on Friday. And I put the lecture out, didn't I? Did I post the lecture from last time? I hope I did. I meant to. All right, so we're gonna pick up where we left off, and this is exactly where we left off. I was talking about the details of the using statement and what we're going to do. So inside of this using statement, we're just declaring a variable. And the real reason why we're doing this inside of a using statement is because the using statement does really good with garbage collection. Like if you've got a variable that you need to make sure that it goes away after you're done using it, then you're going to encapsulate it in a using statement uh, so that that stuff gets taken care of. The details of it for you guys aren't really important. I basically you guys are just going to take this code that I wrote and literally copy and paste it. After I'm done with it, I'm just going to copy all this code that's inside of here, and I'll put it as like a text file on on Canvas, and you guys can just download it and then copy and paste it. And the only thing you'll have to change is this information. Well, really just this information inside of here, and you'll have to change that depending on exactly what the assignment is. But everything else should be the same. And I mean, every time this method that we're writing only executes a single query. It doesn't execute multiple queries. You can only execute a single query inside of one of these methods. So you'll have to write a different query for every single method that you that you uh, that you need. So if your program has 10 different queries inside of it, you'll have to have 10 different methods inside of your program um, in order to make it work correctly. So just be aware of that. And I don't know. There's going to be some other things that we're going to run into. Uh, just off the top of my head, um, I can't think of what they are. So as we go through this stuff and we run into issues, then I'll just kind of deal with those issues as we go through. I know I'm skipping over a lot of stuff inside of this because I I'm pretty confident that most of you guys will catch on to exactly how to do this type of programming, but I guess there's a chance that um, I don't know, some of you guys might struggle with it. I want you guys to ask me questions as much as possible, and I'll answer any of them, and even write code for you in some instances, like I am here, so that you guys can focus on the database side of it as opposed to the Windows Forms side of it. So all the queries that you guys are going to write, I'm not going to write for you, but the code surrounding it and questions about how to format things and make things work inside of Windows Forms, I'll answer like crazy. So anyway, here we are. We have created our query, assigned it to a variable, and now we've created the adapter. And like I said last time, the adapter itself is the object that actually does the communication with the database. And so because we're communicating with the database, there's all kinds of errors that can occur, right? So all kinds of stuff can happen. You can not connect. You can connect and the query have an error in it. you can connect and everything be okay, and for some reason the query fails. There's just a million things that could happen. And so we need to capture all of those errors and do something with it. So we're going to have to wrap this entire thing inside of a try catch. So we're going to say try, and the trying is really simple. All we're going to do is open the connection, and then we're going to go use the adapter to query the database, and then just put the information that we get from the query into that database, that data table that we created before called data. And it looks something like this. So we're going to say con.open. Remember, con is this SQL connection variable that we created up here. So con.open, and then we're going to say adapter.fill. And we're going to fill the data table that we created called data. And that's it. That's going to go out and query the database, go get the results, and if it gets results, it's going to put them inside of that data table. Now, if that fails, we obviously need a catch, and I'm just going to catch the most generic exception that I possibly can, because there's, like I said, there's all kinds of different errors that can occur, but if I catch the generic exception, then I'm going to catch them all, rather than having to write, you know, I don't know, 5 or 6 different catches in order to do, you know, SQL connection error, SQL query error, or whatever errors that could or could not exist inside of there. So I'm going to do a, I don't know, we need to do something. I guess I'll just throw the error just generically right now. So I'm just going to throw the error, but in reality, you'd need to do something like, you know, package up the text from the error, which you can get, right? So E is the exception itself, so you can do like E dot message dot toString, not toArray. I think the message is a string itself, toString. So I think that's redundant. I think the toString thing is redundant because I think message dot message, yeah, message is a string itself. So that's going to return, and you could do like a, I don't know, like a in message box dot show e dot message, and that would display the error message in a message box that you could do something with it. If we were doing some sort of you know, like production environment application, then you would have to package this up into some kind of error thing, and then like put it in an event log or send it as an email. You would never want the user to actually see this error. But for now, I'm just going to do this, and then you guys can handle the error however you want to. I'm not going to be a huge stickler on error checking, because again, we're trying to focus on the database interaction as opposed to the actual programming in Windows Forms. And then we've got try catch, and then we're going to do a finally at the end of it in order to close the connection. So we're going to do con.close, and that's going to make sure whether we throw an error or not, that connection is going to be closed. And then the very last thing that we want to do is return data. So this is going to return the data back to our program so that we can, back to our form so that we can do whatever we want to with it. So in order to test this thing, so we're getting everything from person.person. So I've got to actually go in and put in my credentials really quick. Let me do that. Okay. Where am I? There it is. Okay. Oh, not that. All right, so we're going to go select everything from person.person, and I'm going to show you guys how to actually use it. So let me see what we've got inside of this form. I forget, not the designer. I want the design. Push me. Okay, we can make that do stuff. I'm going to add another control to this form called a list box. And actually, we could put a data control inside of here, but I don't know that I want to don't know. I don't know that I want to show you guys those yet. Those are a little bit more complicated than what I'm going to do. But anyway, I'm just going to use a list box. So I'll put a list box out here and just kind of put it, you know, like, I don't know, over here to the side or something, and make it real big so that we can see all the data that's going to be inside of there. And then whenever you push the button, I'm going to make it go use that query method and then populate the list box over here with the data that's inside of it, or at least a subset of the data that's inside of there. So back inside the form, we changed the text to this. I don't care about that anymore. So this this class that I've created is a static class. So I don't have to create an instance of it. I can just directly call it. So I'm going to say DB connection. And when I do that, there it is. It adds a using directive. So like if it doesn't automatically find that class, whatever it is that you call it, I called it DB connection, but you can name it whatever the heck you want to. You're going to have to add this using directive in order to get access to it. And the using directive is just going to be the namespace, which is test app, and the name of the folder where the class is created. And I guess, I mean, technically speaking, if you wanted to make this easier, you wouldn't have to create this classes folder. You could just excuse me, you could just add a class to the test app, right? Right click on test app and say add class. But if you do that, all your classes are all going to be mixed in with everything else, which is why I like to make a folder out of it. So try to make a folder if you possibly can. And if you're having access issues, it's going to be because you probably forgot this using directive here. So make sure that that's in there. Anyway, you're going to say database connection dot get SQL data, which is that static method that we put inside of there. And that's it, right? So this is going to return something. And the thing that it's going to return is going to be that data table that we had before. So we have to capture that and actually use it. So I'm going to say SQL data get SQL data. Okay, so this is going to, I used var as, you know, the generic form of the variable data type. Because this is going to return a data table, then SQL data, this variable is going to become a data table. And then all I got to do is just iterate through it, right? So first thing I need to look at is get a new query started here. Where did I pull that info from? Person.person. Let me grab a subset of the data that's inside of there. So in person.person, we've got business entity ID, first name, middle name, and last name. So let me do, no, let's just do first name and last name. That's all I'm going to pull. Okay, so now I've got a subset, so I don't have to deal with so many columns inside of there, so many attributes, so many fields. So anyway, after I get that done, that SQL data table should be populated with all that information. Now I just have to iterate through it, and I'm going to iterate through it using a for each loop. So I'm going to say for each data row, I'll just call it dr in SQL data dot rows. So this is how you iterate through a data table. I'm going to say list box one dot items dot add, and I'm going to add the information from that data row. So this is how you access information inside of a row. You got to think, I'm looking at a single row of the information that's inside of that data table. So one row with the columns that are inside of there, and you're going to access the columns inside of that data row using array syntax. So it looks like this: dr which is my local variable, first name, and we'll concatenate onto it. I need to toString it. toString, it should, maybe it's already a string, I don't remember. And then we're going to concatenate onto that a space, and then we'll concatenate onto that dr last name, just like that. So we should see first name, a space, and then a last name, and however many rows there are. I'm going to put some breakpoints in here so we can actually see this stuff work. Maybe not in there because that'd iterate way too many times. Let me get into the connection. So I want you to see this, this, and then I guess if we get any errors, but then we definitely want to see that. All right, so let me execute this thing. All right, so this is the call itself. So continue. Why did it call it? I didn't push the button. Wait a second. Stop. Oh, that's in form load. That's not in the button. My bad. I put it in form load. So let me cut it out of there. Maybe. There it is. And put it right there. I put it in the wrong event handler. All right. So execute it again. I should get the interface this time. There it is. Now I'm going to push the button. Now we're where we want to be. All right, so this is the actual call to the database connection object. So here we are. There we go. Right, so we've created the connection and the adapter, and we're opening the connection here. And then we're going to adapter.fill. Right now, you see, inside of Visual Studio, it's really cool. So you can see the information that's inside of here. If you hit this little magnifying glass right here, then it'll open a window and it'll actually show you the data that's inside of that particular object. And you can look down here and expand it also. Let me close this out so I can actually do it. And expand it. You can see with the open and close curly braces that there's nothing inside of there. But if you want to see the details of it, you can go inside of here and see the details. Now, the next time I click continue, data should have information inside of it. Oh, it's still empty. Maybe. Let me look. No, it's got information inside of there. All right, so this is what I pulled from the database. All of this stuff was pulled from the database, first name, last name. Now it's going to return that information back to the form itself, right? So it's going to populate this SQL data local variable here, and I should be able to look at that SQL data local variable and see all of the information that was in that other one. So that's good. Now I'm going to iterate through every one of those and put it inside of that list box. I'll hit continue and it'll complete that. And then after it's done, get it done, come on. How many rows? Oh, there's like 19,000 rows or something, isn't there? Should have done a top inside of there. Yikes. How long is it going to take? There it went. Right, so here's all the information that's inside of there. That's a long load time. You never want that to happen. So you guys okay with that process?
Yes, sir. Quick question.
Yeah.
What's our password? I forgot about that.
What is your password? I think it's Henderson with a capital H 2021 exclamation mark.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. So obviously, like when you guys go through this, there's going to be a lot of controls out here that you don't understand, and I'll answer any questions that you have about those controls. I mean, it's also going to be up to you guys to look up that information and figure some stuff up or figure some stuff out also. But this is how you connect to and retrieve information from a database. Now, there's one other thing that we have to talk about. And I mean, formally, we haven't actually discussed writing information to a database. you guys did it like on that first assignment that I gave you guys, or most of you did, but we didn't actually talk about how to write information to the database, like using an insert or an update, right? You can use an update as well. Either way, what I'm going to show you next is going to be the format, the syntax that you're going to use to either execute an insert statement or execute a update statement to the database. So let me get this collapsed. So that's get SQL data. We'll call this method public static. This one is just going to return a Boolean because we're writing information to the database, so we're not going to have any data to return. We're just going to say whether or not it was successful. I don't know. Write SQL data. Now in this one, I'm not gonna put anything inside of the argument list, but I mean 99% of the time there's gonna be something inside of this argument list because you're writing something to the database. So you are putting either updated information in the database or you are putting new information inside of the database. And so something needs to be passed to this, like whether that's individual strings that correspond to all of the data that you're putting in there, or it's a some sort of class object that has all the data inside of it that you want to put in the database. But something has to get the information to this method so that it can be used inside of the query. Does that make sense? All right. I love virtual classes. All right, so let's create a Boolean, and we'll just call it success. And initially, I'll set it to false, and only set it to true if everything was okay. So the setup of this is going to be really similar. We're going to use a using statement, and we're going to create our connection. There we go, just like last time. And then I'm going to create another variable that's going to be my query. And then inside of here, I mean, I can do whatever I want to do. I mean, this is going to be an update, an insert, or a delete query. Technically, you can do a delete inside of this as well. So I don't know. I'm not going to actually execute anything. So some insert update or delete query. That's where it goes, right inside of there. And then I'm going to set up my second using statement, and I got to create the adapter again. This one's going to be SQL command as opposed to adapter. So the last time, this is where syntax is a little bit different. We created a SQL data adapter. I'm calling this one adapter, but we're just going to actually create a SQL command. I guess we can call it command. So I'm going to create a SQL command, and I'm going to give it the query and the connection. And then inside of here, syntax is a little bit different as well. I have to open the connection. That's the same, con.open. And then this is where it changes, right? So last time we did adapter.fill, we're not filling anything in this case. We're just going to do command dot execute non-query, and that will execute the insert, update, or delete query. And then if I get to line 73, that means that no errors were thrown in the execute non-query command. So we successfully executed that query. And so I can now take my success variable and I can set it to true. And then I have to do the same try catch inside of here. So you got to wrap a try around all of this stuff. And then we're going to catch exception E. And then we'll just do the same thing. We'll just do a message box thing like we did last time. So message box dot show, what is that about? Why has it got that weird blue underlining? Oh, there it went. And then a finally, close the connection. And then the last thing that I'm going to do is return success, right? And so success will be false if something happened and we threw an exception, and it'll be true only if everything was okay. So there's the syntax for an insert, update, or delete query. So now you've got the syntax for a select statement and the syntax for either an insert, update, or delete query. And then, I mean, you can make whatever happen inside of here that you want to. It doesn't have to follow this exact pattern of sending back a Boolean, but I mean, all the stuff inside of here, inside these using statements, that stuff has to occur. Ooh, I need to put that return not there. I need to put it there. That's where it needs to go. Yeah, that's better. So you can make anything else happen in here that you want to. You know, whatever, however you want to handle errors. If you've got extra stuff that you want to send back, you can do all that stuff. This is just the bare bones minimum that you would need. And I guess technically speaking, you don't even need the Boolean inside of here. That's just kind of a courtesy thing for the person that's using it, and they'd have to know that it occurred anyway, or that it was going to send back a Boolean anyway. You'd have to do some commenting up at the top in order to make that happen. So that's it. I'm going to give you guys these two methods. I'll give you this entire class to deal with, and you guys can just copy and paste that code into it. But I mean, you have to have one database connection class, whatever it is that you want to call it, inside of every one of your projects. And so this will be like a kind of a starter file for it. And then anytime you have like a second SQL query that you need to write, you can just copy and paste this and then change the name of the query and then add whatever arguments that you need to. And then the same thing with an update, insert, or delete query. Was that too much stuff, or are you guys okay?
I'm good.
Okay.
I'm holding on, but yes, no, it's all good.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be easier when you guys use it. So don't fret about it too much. Your first assignment using this thing is going to be pretty simple. So you only have, you know, like a week to complete it, and then after you guys get used to it, I'll give you some more complicated stuff to deal with. So don't fret about it too much. So no questions initially about any of this stuff. Again, I'm just going to give you this code, so not the end of the world. All right. So now let's talk about your assignment. Let's talk about this thing. So ask me questions, and I'll try to answer them.
When you say the third one is long, does it include things that we don't know, or is it just that
there's
it's
just a lot. Okay, so let's talk about that really quick. Let's build another query. I keep grabbing that stinking thing. Give it to me. Let's build a query really quick. So we've talked about joining tables together, but we haven't talked about chaining inner joins. So we've only talked about an inner join, and inner join is all that you need in order to answer the questions on this assignment. But we've only joined 2 tables together, and in that one, like number 3, I think there's 4 or 5 tables that have to be joined together in order to get all of the information that you need in order to answer that query. So the idea of chaining inner joins happens pretty frequently. So let's just do, oh goodness, what would be a good one to do? Where's that stinking assignment? So job title, top 100 employees. So that's second one. So full name, gender, and address. Yeah. So the full name, gender, and address is definitely one of the queries where you would have to join more than one table together. So let's try to build that one, or at least part of it. We'll get the joining part of it done, and I think working through that one, at least the from portion of it will, come on, disconnected me from the server. Will answer a lot of questions on how to chain joins for multiple tables. Give me. Oh, you guys can't see it. Hold on a second. I've got it on my other screen. Come on. Do what I want. Okay. All right. So we need the full name, gender, and address of the Chief Executive Officer of AdventureWorks. Now, normally this wouldn't be that big of a deal because normal databases that you guys run into aren't as normalized as this one. But this one is really normalized. And so we have to get information. First off, we'll have to get information from person.person because person.person holds first name and last name. And the requirement is full name, which we're just going to call first name and last name, and then gender, and then address. So gender doesn't exist inside of person.person. So we'll have to go figure out where that exists. But we can pull full name. So I'm going to start the query, just select person dot last name, and I'll concatenate onto that a space, and then we'll just concatenate on the last name. So person dot last name. I did last name and last name. So first name. There we go. So person.person, first name and last name, and then I'll put the from inside of there so I can stop fully qualifying this thing. Person.person. There we go. All right, so that's the beginning of it. Now we have to go out and we have to figure out where we get the gender from. So gender is found under human resources.employee, I believe. Yes, right there. So human resources.employee is where we get gender. So we're going to have to interjoin these 2 tables, person.person and human resources.employee. And the thing that they have in common is this this key, that the primary key that they share, business entity ID. So we're going to join human resources.employee on business entity ID. So we're going to do inner join human resources.employee on, I'm going to put on down here, on person dot, well, we'll just do person dot business entity ID is employee dot business entity ID, right? So that will join together those two, the data from those two tables, and then I can add that to my list of fields that I'm pulling. So let me alias this really quick as full name. And then the next thing I'm going to pull is going to be the gender. So I'm going to say employee.gender. Now, as I'm pulling it right now, this is going to pull the employee name and the gender of every single employee that exists, right? So there's 290 employees inside of there. It's going to pull every single one of them. I want to limit that to only the person who is the chief executive officer. And so I need to see a way of limiting that. And probably the easiest way is to use job title inside of here. So if I do where employee dot job title is executive officer, should be right. Let's see if that just pulls one. Yeah, so Ken Sanchez is the chief executive officer, and now I've limited it to just this one person. So I've got most of the information that I need, full name and gender. The next thing I need is address, and this one is where things start getting a little bit hairy, because address doesn't come from just one location. So there is a person.address table. There it is, person.address table, and inside of there we've got the address line 1. That's good. Address line 2, we'll include that also, maybe, I don't know. City, that's awesome. Postal code is in there, that's great. But I think address, right? I guess I didn't specify exactly what address means, but the state province ID is where you're going to run into issues, because the state province, as it's listed inside of here, is not, it's just a number, and we've run into that in class before. So I'm going to interjoin person.address, and I have to find a way to link person.address to one of the other tables that are inside of here, right? So somehow I've got to get person.address linked to something else inside of here. And in order to do that, I've got to find some sort of something inside of here that links these two. But if you look at these tables, right, so we've got person.address, person.person, none of these things have some sort of linkable connection between the two. And so I'm going to go and search for where the state province ID might exist. So let's look at, where is it? Business entity address, right there. Let's see what this one is. Right, so this is business entity address. So this connects an address ID to a business entity ID. So business entity ID is important because business entity ID is the key that's shared with the two tables that I've already had connected inside of here. And so I can pull in business entity ID through business entity address and get address ID out of it, so that I can also pull in person.address. So it looks something like this. So I'm going to inner join person dot business entity address on person dot business entity ID is equal to business entity address dot business entity ID. So this pulls in the business entity address table into the fold, and now I can inner join person.address via address ID of business entity ID and address ID. So that looks like this. Inner join person.address on business entity ID address ID is equal to address ID. So now I've got available all of this stuff inside of here. And the last one I got to find is state province ID. And we'll have to do that next time because we've run out of time, or at least it looks like we've run out of time. So we'll pick up that query here next time. Does that help you guys at all, running through that portion of it?
Oh, yes.
Okay, good. And listen, it's like everything that I ever go through, it's fine, right? It's easy to sit there and copy exactly what I'm doing. But if you don't understand what I'm doing, it won't matter, right? You'll get an okay grade on this assignment, at least this question out of the assignment. But if you don't understand what I'm doing, you're not going to be able to answer the questions on the quiz or the exam. So you'll have to ask questions if you don't understand what I'm doing. And we'll finish it up next time. And I'll see you guys later.
See you. Take care.
You too.